Saturday's big Breeders' Cup card starts out with the juvenile fillies. Andy Serling, Sean Morris. We're going to go through the first 4 races of the Breeders' Cup in this video, and that's Saturday's Breeders' Cup card. It feels to me, as we take a look at Songbird, Sean, that we're looking at one of the biggest favorites in this Breeders' Cup card. I know she drew outside, and there's some potential speed inside of her. She is fast, and as you can see here, she's an impressive horse. To me, I am not going to try to beat her. I can understand some may want to take a shot with her. I think she's too good for these.
I agree with that. She was one I'm a little ambivalent on, just because I know she's very, very good. There's a lot of speed signed on, though, and she drew outside. For me, there was enough there where maybe I want to take a few small shots against her, but I respect her immensely.
Be interesting to see what John Velasquez does against her. As we go to our second video, we'll take a look at John Velasquez's mount, and that's Rachel's Valentina, and here she is being tapped to it in our SPINAWay at Saratoga. Johnny's going to have to leave for position with Rachel's Valentina and to make Songbird run, but he can't go too hard and take any starch out of it because Songbird is very fast. He's got to play it well. The problem for me is, A, Rachel's Valentina hasn't now run, but Songbird has not. Well, Songbirds run a month or so ago. Rachel's Valentina's been almost 2 months. I don't know if she's going to have the improvement to beat Songbird, who's been faster than her in every one of her races.
Yeah, for me it came down to, with her pedigree, I just thought the stretch out and getting to a mile in the 16th was going to be ideal for her. I was really surprised she won her debut at 6 furlongs. That was very impressive to me. She came back, got a perfect trip in the Spinaway, but I think this is what she wants to do. Problem is, you're not going to get a price on her, and with a horse like her coming off the form she's coming off of, I would hope to get, something in the ballpark of.
What are the morning lines there? Which I can't.
7-2.
7-2 is probably not a bad price on her. I think Songbird's close to unbeatable. I'm not so sure that Tap To It couldn't gain with going more distance in this race. You just think that Rachel's Valentina is a better horse?
Actually, Tap To It's the one I picked.
Okay.
And it came down to post, and I just feel like she's a little more tractable. Obviously, she's already had plenty of adversity in her career. Not in the Spinaway, but her maiden win was very, very eventful. And she was another, I don't know that the stretch out is exactly what she wants to do, but I think she has ability, and she's going to be a big price.
I prefer her to Rachel's Valentina because I think that Rachel Valentina is going to have to be used a little bit in this race in position against Songbird as a better horse. So I think that Tap To It's the kind of horse that could be in a position to maybe pick up some pieces. Now, how about, we're only going to have to look at in this race, of course, Nickname, because NEMORALIA is obviously running in the Breeders' Cup, the turf race, but Nickname, an impressive winner of this race. She was very, very good at here. This was a fast pace, and she was an impressive winner. It wasn't a super fast race, but the problem with her is, isn't she, if anything, going to get in the way of Songbird? How's she going to deal with that one and win this race?
Yeah, I couldn't envision a winning scenario for her. I hear what you're saying. I didn't think much of this race overall. And you know what? I didn't think the stretch out really worked for her. She won, but she didn't beat a very good field in here. And
I thought she did it the right way, though, Sean. Yeah. I mean, she worked hard early. It's not as though she was a lucky winner of this race.
Right. But they did crawl home too, which is what definitely something I didn't like coming out of there. And we saw She's Already come back and just didn't run well again.
Yeah, I wouldn't use She's Already as the argument because I don't think she's a miler and she came back. I don't know. Maybe that's a fair argument. We'll see. Listen, I don't like Nickname, so it's not as I'm disagreeing with you. Yeah. I thought her race in there. She also beat She's Already by 5 lengths or 4 3/4 lengths. So I don't know that you really want to say, well, She's Already didn't run that well, therefore she's bad. She buried her.
Right.
I just don't know if she's good enough to win this race, especially from a dynamic standpoint.
Yeah, no, I agree with that more so than anything, but I just didn't think that race was all that good. And again, I don't think the added ground works for her.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I just think, and also when the chief competition has the same running style and is faster than you early, what are you supposed to do as a speed? Mm-hmm. What about a horse like Dothraki Queen as we take a look at her in the Pocahontas? She came back and finished second in the Alcibiades. The winner of that race, Gomo, unfortunately got hurt. Can she be a closer that can move forward and get second? She has experience at Keeneland, or is she too slow?
The latter, in my opinion. I didn't think much of this race, and she did have some trouble. She had to wait a little in the stretch, but it was both quality to angle out and maybe had the more difficult trip. I don't like either of them in here, though.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I thought they were a little bit slow, but they are young horses, could improve. I'm not trying to beat. I'm a Tap To It fan. I'm not trying to beat Songbird. I think she may be the best juvenile in the country right now, and I think she's going to win this race. But she could be a victim of pace. I went 10-2-9-1. Excuse me.
And I was, 2, 9, 10, and to me it was a function of the pace and post. I'm hoping maybe Songbird gets caught wide on the first turn and is chasing a fast pace, but she's probably the best horse in the race.
One thing Mike Smith doesn't do is get in the way of the good horses that he rides. The Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint is a race where you could have a million opinions. We will run through a bunch of races, and we're going to start out with a race, the Turf Monster at Parks, that may be one of the biggest preps of all for this race. I'll tell you something, I am a fan of Pure Sensation. I don't love that he got the rail. There is not a ton of speed for a Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint in this race, and I think he's shown at Saratoga he could rate and win when he sat up a pace and got covered up, but he also has a lot of speed. They're going to go from the inside. I think Pure Sensation's a major, major player in this race.
Yeah, I like him too. I like him too, definitely. And as we saw in the quick call, I mean, this is a horse who can handle coming from off the pace, and obviously a lot of adversity in that race. I think he's very, very good, and I'd like to see him work out the right kind of trip from the rail, and I think he can.
Yeah, I think he is a big shot for Christophe Clement. Now, we'll take a look at last year's Breeders' Cup Sprint. Undrafted, I think, finishes second or third in this race. Bobby's Kitten makes an improbable run from last to win it. Bobby's Kitten is a horse took a long time to get back to the races. He's done little to no running in his 2 races this year. Is there any reason he's going to suddenly come alive at a furlong less, not down a hill at Keeneland?
I think you just hit on the key point here. Based on this race, it looks like 6.5 is the absolute shortest he can possibly get away with.
With that trip.
Right. So at 5.5 on based on the form he's in this year, I don't think you can take him in this race.
Yeah, I don't like him either. I think Undrafted has a little bit of a chance. We'll take a look at Lady Shipman, who is the 5-2 morning line. I'm going to tell you something. I don't think there's a chance that she's going to be 5-2 in this race. First of all, it's too big a field.
Drift up from there?
Yeah, it's too wide open. This race expose her as not being as good as she gets beaten by Ageless, who's not going to play in here, though Ageless is pretty good. I think it's a very good move by the Connections to go back to Irad Ortiz, who was able to rate her and get her to win at Saratoga. She's run some big races this year. I couldn't take her at a short price in this field.
Me neither. Yeah, I thought she ran huge in this race, by the way.
She did.
But she just figures to get the same kind of trip, just up pressing a really hot pace. This was
You think it's going to be a really hot pace? I don't think it's going to be that hot.
You don't think it's going to be that hot? There's at least enough speed to go with her, though.
There is.
And make it difficult on her.
Well, Irad is not one known to get caught into speed duels, so but I just feel like Pure Sensation's a better speed. I'll put it that way.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I respect Lady Shipman, but it figures to be the same kind of trip, though. You know, near a somewhat hot pace on a turf course that had some give in it. I know it was listed as firm last time and had some give in it for sure. And she's facing a much better field this time, so I just don't think you can take her either.
Yeah, I think if she were 6 to 8 to 1, I would use her. But if she's in the 3 to 1 range, I don't want any part of her. I think she's capable of maybe being as talented as anyone in here. But I just wonder if you want her at a short price. Now, how about horses from the Jaipur, Channel Marker, and Something Extra? I don't think either one of these horses are completely impossible. Now, Channel Marker got it done, has obviously not run as well. It's not going to run. I'm sorry. Channel Marker is not running. Something Extra, though, is running. Is it possible that Something Extra was overly rated on the front end by John Velasquez at Saratoga and is a long shot that's good enough to get a piece of these? I think he is, even though I don't even think I have my top 4. I think I picked him 4th or 5th. I'm not really sure. I do think Channel Marker, though, has a chance.
Something Extra?
Something Extra.
Right,
I'm getting myself completely and totally confused. Let's get back to that. Something Extra. Thanks, Sean. I knew you were here for some reason to correct me because I'm getting old.
So I was actually curious to hear your opinion of this horse, and I think you struck on a key point here, which is the problem that his speed is not being utilized early, or has he gone off form? Because he has run some huge races, yes, particularly earlier in the year in the Shakertown was a massive race down there. On this course, exactly. So he was one, I'm definitely going to be including him, but I'm not sure if the form has deteriorated or if it's a function of he just needs to blaze as fast as he can early and try to hang on late.
I think he's supposed to do that. I think you have to stop. I mean, the disease of rating speed horses is something, as you know, has driven me even crazier than I already am to begin with. Let them roll. That's what turf sprinting is about. Letting sprinters roll, not rating them in the front end. I think if he's going to have any chance in here, that's going to be his best chance. Maybe he's a 30 to 1 shot. But you know what? Ride him like you want to win, not like you're nursing him along to run 6th in here. I'm a fan of the horse we're looking at next, and this is the quick call at Saratoga's Ready for Rise being the Great War. I didn't love the Great War's race up in Canada. He's coming off a layoff. I like Ready for Rye. He is a tractable horse. He draws well towards the outside. He can do whatever he wants. If they're not going that fast, he can engage. If not, he can stalk, as he did here when they went pretty quickly. I know he got away with some murder when he won his turf debut, but I'll tell you something. I think Ready for Rye is a legitimately talented horse, and I'm going to take a shot in here. His turf figs are low, so I think he won't attract much attention. I think he's a better horse than them. I picked Ready for Rye on top.
Yeah, I was a little torn on him too. I do think he's got a lot of ability, but this is a huge class test for him. Just massive. And the quick call, that actually was a pretty good race. He did get a good trip in there. So I'll be curious. I mean, with him, I'm also going to let Price be my guide because I'm just not sure. The one thing going against him now is he's got that 104 on the page. And it's just something, yeah, exactly, right. Yeah. So you would have preferred he's just coming in off the quick call, but he could attract some money based on a wet track performance.
Yeah, he might. We'll see what Price is there. Anybody else we haven't talked about you need to talk about? I know there's about 400 horses that are running or not running. I'm not even sure in some cases who's definitely running.
I actually liked Green Mask. I picked him on top.
He's an interesting horse.
Yeah, and this is a very similar thing. Well, actually, almost the exact thing Wesley Ward did last year with Undrafted, who ran really well. Just gave him a prep at Kentucky Downs. I thought he ran really well at Maidan. I don't know about you. I don't know what you thought of that trip.
I thought he ran fine. I mean, Soul Power is a legitimately good.
Right.
The European turf sprinters aren't as good as the horses going longer than turf, but Soul Power is pretty darn good.
Yeah, right. One of the best turf sprinters in the world. Yeah. And I thought he was definitely second best to him that day, but I thought he was second best in that race. And he's a horse, earlier in the year, he caught 2 very firm courses at Gulfstream in Tampa. And I felt like once he got on that good ground at Maidan, to me that was an indication that he prefers a little cut in the ground. And he's one I think can work out a very good trip in here.
I think he has a chance. I think I did pick him actually 4th. I think I have the other horse, the Something Horse, 5th. My problem is, prep or not last time, I wish he had finished better in there. I've got him in the mix. I went 12-1-3-7. We've got a lot of similar picks. We just slightly disagree about the 12.
Yeah, and again, with Ready for Rye, it's going to come down to price for me because I could see him being a huge overlay in here.
Well, that's a general theme of the Breeders' Cup races. Yeah. Keep an open mind and realize that you might like 3 horses or 4 horses, but realizing when 6 or 8 can win, you've got to be looking at the prices and find the ones that get lost between the cracks. Now, I think one of the most interesting races in the entire Breeders' Cup is the Filly and Mare Dirt Sprint. I think this race has come up with a ton of speed, and that's going to help the horse that I think is supposed to be favored in here. I don't mind her post-14 draw because she can drop back and do what she wants. To me, Comforting is the horse to beat. I did not pick her on top. I picked her second, but they've got her to beat. I think she's very good.
Same exact thing for me. I ended up picking her second. We saw in the Prioress when she's drawn to the widest post, she broke like a shot last time, an absolute shot. And so I think she's going to, the same thing could unfold here. Breaks well, can filter in wherever she's comfortable, and I respect her, especially at 7 furlongs. I think that's the perfect distance for her.
Yeah, I think she's going to prove very tough in here. Now, the prep at Keeneland was won by Fioretti, who's probably an over her head last time, maybe the time for her. Judy the Beauty, last year's Breeders' Cup winner of this race, is down on the inside. I do think that she was compromised by being inside, and she couldn't find that clear path. There was room on the inside. Horses aren't comfortable around there. They tried to get her the outside. My problem with Judy the Beauty is I think this is a tougher field than last year. I've never been her biggest fan. I know she won it at 7. Maybe she gets a trip. I just think there's other horses that are better bets.
I can't possibly take her in this race. She did have trouble here at Keeneland in the TCA, but it seems like she might have even fallen off a little from last year when her form wasn't even that good. I mean, she kind of took advantage of a weak edition of the race. So, I mean, if she's going to take money in here, there's no possible way I could use her.
You and I are on exactly the same page with her. Let's talk about Taris. And Taris, this is last year at Keeneland in the Raven Run, and what might have been the most visually impressive dirt race run all year. Now, Taris obviously has had a lot of issues. She's missed some time. She came back. She won a race out in California. And the L.A. woman, she's involved with a 4-wide and a vicious pace. The problem I have is Uzi Owl finished second, was in that pace as well. And I think it's going to be a vicious pace in this race as well. And keep in mind, she got away with a fairly moderate 22-2 first quarter in this race in the Raven Run. I like Taris as a horse. I just feel like she's going to be a pace victim.
And how can you possibly trust her? Since that Raven Run, she hasn't run a race that's remotely competitive with this field. And I get it was a really hot pace last time. But this is also a horse that's taken some buzz now. I don't know about you, but I've heard more than a few people say they really like her in this race. So I don't think you're going to get a price on her either, and I just can't take her in the form she's in.
I agree. The big race at Keeneland is the one thing that's going to draw a lot of people in. Let's take a look at the Gallant Bloom at Belmont Park. La Verdad is going to play. We're going to show the start of this race because there's some Dame Dorothy breaks poorly. Now, Wavell Avenue, I'm a fan of. It says stumbled the paper. I thought at most she actually bobbled in this race, Wavell Avenue. I think they're overdoing these starts to a great degree in the charts. We'll pick the race up top of the stretch, though, and La Verdad obviously gets it done. To me, La Verdad is, if anything, going to be a pace victim. If they try to rate her, she can't beat these horses at 7 furlongs. To me, the horse you want out of this race is Wavell Avenue, who might be in the best form of her career and finally showed she can run well when facing good horses.
I agree, and you got to think the stretch out to 7 furlongs works for her too. And La Verdad, I don't think there's any question they're going to rate her just based on what we saw last time. Nice. Which I agree with you totally. I think it's going to be a mistake, as you say all the time. Speed is a weapon; you have to utilize it, and I just don't think it's going to be utilized.
The other thing is she's not facing the kind of horses that she faced in the Iroquois. With all due respect,
right.
If she runs the race she ran the Iroquois rating, she'll be 17th in a 14-horse field in this race. I love her as a horse. I just don't know if she can get it done. I don't like Dame Dorothy. I don't like Room for Me. But Wavell Avenue, I think she showed 2 races back when she overcame a slow pace and was able to still beat Sweet Whiskey. She was turning it around, and she showed last time she could keep running, and she may better get a very good pace to run into. What about Super Majesty, who skipped the Raven Run at Keeneland, off of her win in the Dogwood to run in here for trainer Jerry Hollendorf was very good. Can she be effective rating? Because it feels like she's run her best races on the front end, and is she good enough to beat these, Sean?
My feeling, whether or not she's good enough, or whether or not she can rate, to me wasn't really a factor. I just didn't think she was good enough to win this race. That's what it came down to with me. But, you know, I thought she ran an okay race in the Dogwood. It didn't seem like the pace held together, and she was right up, well, setting the pace. But
she was ridden to get the bleed in there. There were other speeds in there. She was ridden with purpose. I think she's a good horse. I trust Hollendorfer. I don't know if she's good enough, but I've got her on the fringes of the play here. I'm going to use her a little bit. There are a lot of horses in here I just don't want. Like, I don't want Stonetastic, who we're taking a look at here. I got suckered in, like everybody else, to Stonetastic last year. She was the lone speed. The track was playing for speed, blah, 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 blah. The end of the day with me with Stonetastic is the Prioress was a speed track she took advantage of. This was a fair track at Parks, but she's running against horses that are inferior to her, even though it was a legitimate race. And listen, she ran well behind Unbridled Forever, who won the slowest ballerina that's ever going to be run in her next start. I like Stonetastic. I don't see how she deals with the pace in this race and runs her A race, because she needs her absolute A race to win it.
Yeah, I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker with her because I like her in this race, and I get the pace could adversely affect her. But for me, as far as beating cavorting goes, I just wanted horses like her who pop up and run huge from time to time. And I get she's not the most reliable, but she is capable of a very big race. And I thought the Shine Again was actually a really good effort from her.
Especially off a layoff. The problem is, how is she going to get a trip in this race that wins the race for her?
I think she can come from just off the pace. I think she is at least drawn well outside of the main speeds. As far as working out the trip, I'm not sure exactly. I'm just betting on the talent that's there.
She obviously has it in her. And you know, if you look at horses behind her last race, to be fair to you, she beat horses that came back and ran to their figures or ran better. So that was a legitimate number, and she didn't take advantage of any bias. I want to see her do advance the big girls. How about a wild card in here? And look at Artemis Agrotera in a heartbreaking defeat for La Verdad, who's out in front in last year's Gallant Bloom. Artemis Agrotera, this is 2 races back for her. She has not run since last year's Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint. Mike Hushen is not making a play like this unless she is doing really, really well. We know that she can rate, as we saw in this race, as she got it done rating and running down a loose La Verdad. Can she possibly get a piece? I'm using her, Sean.
I'm using her too. And for similar reasons to Stonetastic, like I'm saying, I just want these horses who can pop up and run a really big race. And Mike Hushen would not be going here if she wasn't capable of running a big race. So she's another I definitely like in here, and I will be using her prominently.
I will be as well. I went 7, 14, 5, 6. You went in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, 18.
18?
Not 18. 8, 14,
You're
5,
not old.
7.
You don't have an excuse. I think this is a terrific race. I'm looking forward to this race a great deal. I really think this could be a really, really fun race. I'm sure I'll lose in it, but I'm getting ready to enjoy it. I'm going to enjoy the Filly and Mare Turf this year, and we'll talk about the American horses in general to start, but we're going to talk at length about the Euros when we're done with them. Let's start out with Stephanie's Kitten beating What's the Chances in the Flower Bowl. Is Stephanie's Kitten the best American in this race?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what do you make of this race? I mean, it was run on an absolute bog. So how much does it even translate?
Well, she's
going
good
into
enough
this?
that you know she's a good horse. So you know,
Right.
It's not like she got lucky to win. How's that?
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's a valid point. I just didn't think she came back all that good this year to begin with. So I don't want to bet her based on the Flower Bowl again, just because it's coming on a course that's not going to translate to what you'll see at Keeneland.
Well, I don't think it's going to be the same kind of bog, but it's not exactly.
It'll be
firm
softer,
there.
right?
Let's look at the Arlington Million, where it had rained just a little bit before it. See, I think as you see her moving on the outside, I actually think she might have run down Secret Gesture. Now, Secret Gesture benefits from the fact that the connections of a horse who could have been the lone speed in here chose to run in the mile, where I think she has little chance. Secret Gesture could be the speed in here, though I think Centenario Italia will get to is going to go in here. Can Secret Gesture get it done, or are there better Euros in here? And is she necessarily better than Stephanie's Kitten?
I think all of those questions are very important with her. And no, I don't think she can get it done in here. I think she's a cut below, and you know, there's more attractive European options than her, in my opinion.
I agree. The possible speed is the only thing that helps her. What's chance who was placed first in that race? I don't think she's good enough. She's got a trip. I think the best Chad Brown horse is the horse we're looking at here. I think the Sita, whose performance in the Boston Spa at Saratoga was jaw-droppingly good. I mean, this was a course at a time that was very favorable to speed. I think that, you know, you look at Tepin, who's running in the mile I was just talking about, who could have been a factor in here, in my opinion. Tepin didn't lose this race. DeCita beat her, and this was a very impressive performance. And if any American-based horse wins it, and I'm a little dubious of that, I think it'll be DeCita.
Yeah, definitely. And poor Tepin. I mean, she just ran a huge race in here and was mowed down by DeCita. That was a very powerful run. To me, the only question with her is the softer turf.
Fair enough.
That was a very hard course, but like you're saying, that was working against her in that race. And that's the only question mark I have. I think she's the best of the Americans, too, though.
Yeah, I just wonder if the Europeans are better. Now, we'll look at Hard Not to Like, and she's going to actually run down Tepin. Poor Tepin's going to get taken some brutal beats in this show. Hard Not to Like, and we're going to go right into another video as soon as we're done with this, or as quickly as we can, and we'll look at the Rodeo Drive when Hard Not to Like lost to a Perfect Trip Photo Call. Is a nice horse, but nice might be good enough. I think Hard Not to Like will have an excuse in the Rodeo Drive we'll look at, but she got a great setup here. Is she good enough, Sean?
No, and you know what? I don't think the turf, I hate to keep harping on the turf course, but they sent her out to California so that she would catch a firm course. She runs better on firm ground, and she's not going to get that at Keeneland. I think she's very good. I thought her race in the Diana was excellent. I just don't trust her on the turf course at all.
I think one thing that will help her is the fact that she drew the rail.
Right,
because
yeah.
she couldn't be effective chasing outside like she was forced to do in the Rodeo Drive. Where she's on the rail, she's kind of in a free roll. She's probably not good enough to win, so I think you're going to find her just sitting on the rail and hoping she gets a little bit lucky. And, you know, she's good enough to get a real piece of this if she gets a little bit lucky, and sometimes the Euros don't really show up. So while I don't like her, I think she's dirtied up by her last race because she had a no-chance trip. Whereas Photo Call I'm a fan of, mile and 3/16 is better for her, I think, than a mile and 3/8 race. Still, I think that was her day. Centenario Italia, who we're taking a look winning the Sands Point, they're kind of rushing her in off a subpar effort in the Queen Elizabeth. Now, she didn't get the best of trips that day, but she didn't run a race. To me, whether she's good enough or not, if she's your horse, aren't you supposed to let her roll in the front end and try to get lucky?
Yeah, you would think so. You know, this is definitely a horse. I feel like the figures kind of belie her ability. I think she's very, very good.
She is very good.
It's got to be a little disconcerting, though, that she didn't run well over the local course. But so I like her. I'm just, it's not a horse I can rely on, but she's going to be a big price, so she will be incorporated in my plays.
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way. I feel like she's a really good horse, and maybe next year we'll see her get the upper echelon. Yeah. And if she's 30-1, I want to throw her in somewhere. The big European that you have to talk about in here is Legatissimo. Legatissimo is a legitimately top grade 1 quality horse that will relish the distance, and she is much the horse to beat in this race. Is there any argument against that?
No. No, she's
not
got a lot of
one. I'm picking against her, but there isn't a sane one against her.
No, I think she's very, very good. Her Nassau was super impressive. So I think she's just a very deserving favorite. I actually I sneaked a peek at your Twitter thoughts, so I know you're a little interested in Queen's Jewel, and I agree with the argument here that Freddie Head would not be bringing this horse over if he didn't feel like she could compete in this race. Right.
I do think it's very important to talk about both Queen's Jewel and Miss France. Two horses that will be much bigger prices, and I think they'll get lost in the Euro jumping on Legatissimo.
Yeah.
The thing about Queen's Jewel that you're alluding to is, first of all, Freddie Head's not coming over here unless he thinks he has a chance, in my opinion.
Definitely.
It makes no sense. This horse, she buried the field in the St. Allery. I think she set a track record at Longchamp when she won that race, okay? So now she's in the 17-horse Prix Diane, which is the French Oaks at Chantilly. A 17-horse field, and she's 8-5. I mean, when you run in those big European races and big fields on Gallop Racer, even with the best horses, you're never 8-5 in those races. Yeah. And she runs horrendously. She doesn't run a step.
And then comes back the favorite.
Back 4 months later, back to Longchamp, and she's favored again in the Prix de l'Opera, which is the premier filly and mare race on the R card, a 13-horse field, and she stinks the joint up. I mean, you watched the race. Yeah. She had a good trip. She's sitting in back. She was about 3 wide, but it's not like she never ran a step in there. So what person would possibly bring this horse over to the Breeders' Cup? Now, Freddie Head is not a fool, and he's bringing this horse over here, and she gets Lasix as well. So it feels to me like maybe there's an issue where she needs Lasix. I'm going to respect him. She's going to be a big price. And I think Miss France is a little bit dangerous as well. Miss France, I don't know how hard you looked at her, but to me, Andre Fab's another guy. Why would he bring her over?
Yeah, I was a little torn on her just because I feel like she's more effective at a mile. I mean, it's going back into last year, her 3-year-old year when she ran in that Prix de Diane. I don't want to butcher those names.
Prix Diane. It's called the French Oaks. Make it easier.
The French
Avenir
Oaks.
Certain was very good at that point.
Yeah.
And the comments in Time Form was they didn't feel the distance was a problem, so I'm going to go with that.
Really? Did you watch? I just felt like watching the race. It just didn't look like she saw out the distance, but it wasn't her 3-year-old year, so, I mean, she looks to be an improved horse.
My feeling is it's her 3rd start of the year. She ran okay. She didn't run great. Listen, she's not winning off the race she's run so far. Yeah. I'm respecting these French. I'm respecting a guy like Andre Fabre, who's a genius. He's not bringing this race, and she's going to be a big price. I want to use her. And to me, it's Decida and a bunch of Euros, and I want to use Miss France, and I want to use Queen's Jewel. I can't back it off their last races. I can only hope they're smart trainers that are bringing horses that at one time were good enough to win this race.
Yeah, I can agree with that. She's 6-1 morning line. I hope you get more than that,
Queen's
and you
Jewel
probably will.
Top. I will get more than 6-1 in here. Yeah. I don't know how she's that price up here. I went 6-9-3-8. I've got the scene in there. You went to the very chalky but likely winner, Levitissimo.
Yeah, and I threw in Bawina, too. That's a horse we didn't touch on, but I just like that she ran a pretty good race at the distance, too, back. Or actually probably a little further than the distance, but she ran a good race, and she's another getting Lasix here, and figures to be a big price of the Europeans. I don't know if she's as good, and in fact, she probably is not as good as the others.
Well, they don't feel she is. Time for feels she's a cut below, and that was one of the reasons I didn't use her in there. I think it's a fascinating race. We'll see how things play out. Those are the first 4 races on Saturday. Sean and I will be back with the final video covering the last 5 races, including the Breeders' Cup Classic.